Hi and welcome to the Happiness Safari podcast, your podcast for happier and healthier life. My name is Nadine, I'm your host, and I'm so happy you're back listening. Today I speak to Cynthia. Cynthia Young is a Feng Shui practitioner and meditation instructor. For the past 10 years, Cynthia has guided her own transformational journey and has helped others through the study of meditation and one-pointed awareness breathwork. She now teaches out of her home in Arizona and online. She believes there is an intense connection between self-worth and creating a supportive, non-chaotic environment. She works with groups, individuals, and business owners to help them better understand how to support their authenticity through creating a supportive environment. Cynthia and I speak about her story and her childhood. She shares her story very openly and talks about how she coped after having a non-diagnosed stroke at the young age of 6 and how she lived with this disability. We also talk about how Feng Shui and meditation changed her life and how she's helping others to do the same. She shares how you can create a safe space to talk with your partner about difficulties, why you have to practice meditation on the good days so you can handle the bad days. From Cynthia, you will learn how to express your needs, how to love yourself, how you can find peace and self-love in meditation, how important positive self-talk is, and why you have to do the work yourself. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, welcome everyone to the Happiness Safari podcast. And today I'm talking to Cynthia from Arizona. Cynthia, I'm so happy to have you today. And how are you?
It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. As you said, my name is Cynthia Young. I'm in Arizona in the USA and happy to be here.
Happy that you are here too. Very happy to talk to you today. So would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more and tell people who you are or what you're doing, whatever you like to share?
Sure. I have not been in Arizona long, probably 3 years. I made the big move, as I said, 3 years ago from the East Coast, the only place I had ever lived and where I grew up, and now have become a Feng Shui consultant down here and also teach instructional meditation. And really work with people to heal and find out what kind of life they want to create. My own journey is one of illness as a child and then divorce after a marriage that was very critical, and now a much happier marriage where I'm truly living as myself.
Wow. I mean, first of all, it's beautiful that you do all this healing work, and that sounds wonderful. So I definitely want to know more about that a little bit later on. But maybe we can dive in a bit into your story and see where it kind of started and maybe where it turned around from. If you were also in an unhappy relationship and how that kind of transformed after and where you now.
So I think that I'll start way back. As a child, I experienced a stroke from cerebral palsy, which I didn't know was a diagnosis at that time. So I was disabled at a young age. I think that really led to me looking for validation of my self-worth because I was different, because I grew up with teasing and bullying and not loving myself. I was always kind of in pursuit of that. And instead of turning inward, I looked for outside validation, which I think a lot of times we all do. And I married somebody who was a victim of verbal abuse and verbal criticism and ultimately put that on me in our marriage. And because I was who I was and not setting boundaries, I was constantly trying to change him and constantly trying to please him and thinking that there was something wrong with me. And it took me 14 years in that marriage to figure out that it wasn't about me, it was about what his pain that he had experienced. And once I started to empathize with that, I could leave the relationship and say, I need to be better about creating boundaries and I need to be better about loving myself before I try to please somebody else.
Oh.
So it was at that time, it was a real spiritual pursuit for me. And I started to study Buddhism and started to really open creatively. I was a photographer at that time. And creative process is an excellent process for healing and grieving and doing all the messy things that you need to do to create something beautiful. And when I met my now husband, my second husband, what I said to him was, my spirituality and my love for myself come first. And if you're on board with that, you can come along. But if you're not, then we're not meant to be together.
Wow. And I guess he agreed to that.
He agreed to it. And I think if you spoke to him, he would tell you that he's really learned about communication, and we really work hard to facilitate communication between the two of us. We work on language that builds each other up. I think too many times, often in relationships, people use language to tear each other down. I think we're always looking to blame other people for our pain instead of going inward, which is, as you know, where the real work is. You go inward to heal your pain. We're looking for other people. Well, it's your fault I feel this way. Well, it's your fault that this happened. And really, you just need to be an active listener to be in a good relationship. And you need to have compassion about your communication.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. And I think it's beautiful that you actually, turned your life around in that way. I just want to go back to what you shared to the past, because I think that must have been incredibly difficult as a child. I mean, if you first are suffering from something which is not diagnosed and you don't even know what's going on. And then obviously, I think a lot of people experience bullying anyways. But then in addition to that, I'm guessing that you haven't had much kind of mental support during that time and that period.
It was, challenging for sure. And it's something that always stays with me because I was so ill as a child. It became everything becomes about safety for me, which is why I think I got into Feng Shui and being safe in an environment. Is that, as a child, it was all about my rehabilitation. I had the stroke at 6 years old. I was not diagnosed with cerebral palsy until I was in my 30s because the technology just wasn't available to do that. So it was a constant fight for my own safety. Because of the fight or flight, my body thinks, oh, you're in danger. You're in danger. So whenever I get triggered by sound or lights or loud music or loud talking, for me, it becomes about safety. And I have to remind myself still now at 53 years old, hey, body, you're safe. You're not having another stroke and almost dying. You're safe. That's just the sound that you remember. So there's a lot of self-talk. And for a partner to understand that, to say, I can't lose you in the grocery store because I feel unsafe. You have to tell me where you're going or I feel unsafe. And to keep coming back to that. He knows that when we're in the car and he's had the news up loud or music up loud, he turns it down because he knows that my nervous system can't cope with it. But that's a need that I've expressed. And I've said, loud music makes me feel unsafe. So as a grown-up, I always take that childhood trauma with me. And I think in my first marriage, the verbal criticism and the verbal attacks only exacerbated the non-confidence that I was already feeling and the danger that I was already feeling just from being ill as a child. And to not be aware of that really made for a mess in the relationship. So there were a lot of things that kind of came together as the perfect storm that really made it not work out.
I can imagine. When did you come to that conclusion that it's important to take care of yourself and to have this positive self-talk? Was that just after the breakup, or was that a process, or how did that happen?
I think it's an ongoing thing that I think we always all work on every day. But I think when my breakup happened the first time around, I thought, oh boy, now I'm alone and I have to learn to manage everything, not only as a divorced person, but as a disabled person also. But I think I realized, okay, this is about loving myself. I had some great support back east from a mentor who I trained with in meditation. He was wonderful, and did some Phoenix Rising yoga therapy, which really helped. But it was realizing that if there was going to be love and if there was going to be success, it had to come from here. Is that nothing and nobody that I pursued on the outside was going to make that happen until I did the work. And that meant sitting with flaws and all the ugly parts of yourself that you don't like, all of the dark spots, and to say, oh, wow, there's no part of me that's unlovable. Even that part that's judgmental, even that part that is in so much pain, none of it is unlovable. It is all lovable, and it's all part of us. And we do this beautiful alchemy of dark and light, and again, I study Feng Shui, so it's that the yin yang symbol and the contentment rests in the alchemy of those two opposite forces.
So when did you have that feeling for the first time? I mean, was that in...
I think it was after my divorce, so probably in my late 40s, and I think I continue into my 50s with, I still need to go past the mirror every day and say, you are 100% lovable. You are the receptacle for joy. So it took a while, and it's something that I think I work on every day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
And I think it's, something we should work on every day, and everybody actually should. But I feel like sometimes just telling ourselves doesn't help. Like, we have to kind of experience that feeling in a way. And I guess, often it's easier to experience that, with a partner, somebody else who gives it to you. That's why I'm asking, what was like the first moment? Was that during a meditation, or, when did you actually like feel that feeling, so you kind of believed it, so then you could go back to it?
Sure. And I, after, while my divorce was going on, I started a daily meditation practice. And that flipped my life. And I teach it now, and I would encourage anybody, no matter who they are, to start some kind of practice. Because literally things, as I started to meditate daily, things around me started to change. Everything shifted. And I started to clean up myself spiritually. I started to clean up myself physically and in my environment. And that practice stays with me today. And it really is the foundation that I call on daily, for everything. Practice is everything. And to have a commitment to love yourself that much is such a necessary thing.
Yeah. And how did you start meditating? Did you start with a very short one or guided one, or how did you start?
It was a very short one. I had been doing occasional yoga at a studio back in Massachusetts, and there's a great mentor there. He's still there, who brought me kicking and screaming into the meditation class, kicking and screaming. And the minute I sat and did it, I knew it just felt like home to me, and I knew something had shifted. And I didn't stop after that. And then he asked me to teach. And just being in the process of healing from the divorce, and just being in the process of kind of starting to speak and live my own truth, it really meant all of the difference for me. And again, it's something that I do daily, and I'm constantly calling on, meditation is not a response to a bad day. You practice on the good days so that you can handle the bad days. So it isn't a stress relief in the sense that it is more setting up the foundation for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, for many people, kind of hard to, get into it and actually start it. I feel a lot of people know or heard of the benefit of meditation, but still struggle to start. What would you recommend people to do?
Well, I think that people have to allow it to be messy. The Western culture in the United States, at least, kind of kind of shows meditation as this lotus position, water in the background, beautiful lighting. And really, I teach people you can sit in a chair, you can walk down the street, you can be doing a creative activity. Those are all meditative practices. I still sit in a chair. I never sit in lotus position. It's usually in my pajamas with a blanket wrapped around me, because that's when I choose to do my practice. You don't have to have a mat and a beautiful matching outfit. And, you know, meditation can be messy. You're there to strip away everything, all of the judgment, all of the preconceived notions, all of the things you think you don't love. That's what you sit with.
Yeah,
you know, the more we sit with our demons and the things we don't love, we bring them closer, and we call it sitting in the fire. The more rich it is.
So how do you do that? Like, do you allow whatever is coming and then you're just accepting it, or is there like a mantra or a ritual or something?
You know, some people have mantras. I have a gratitude practice that I do out loud, and it's not like I'm thankful for my blue pencil. It's more like, thank you for my breath being easy today. Thank you for this beautiful experience of life. But it's on a little bit of a grander level. I teach people just to sit in the silence. When I teach, I don't use music. I don't use any fancy lighting. It's more just you sit and let your thoughts cool. I think that emptying the mind is a little bit of a misnomer. To let your thoughts cool. We go through so many fractured experiences during the day that our brains don't have a chance to catch up. You know, we have fractured conversations and fractured vision and fractured music and experiences. It gives us a minute to put aside that life and let whatever's coming up come up. Sadness, the grief, the anger, all of the things that we push down while we're pursuing on a daily level. While we're consuming every day, we push down the things we really need to look at.
Yeah, I love that actually, because also what you said, that we cannot really process all the things we experience during the day. And that I think many people, and a lot of my clients say, you know, expect what you said, that when you have to, like, you meditate, you have to get a kind of free mind or a clear mind or no thoughts. And I'm not even sure if that's possible. But I think it's more important just to kind of, sit and accept whatever is coming. You just give yourself the time, right?
Well, and to at least acknowledge it. You know, I don't have to love what's coming up. I don't have to love that I judged my partner yesterday. I don't have to love that I'm sad that, you know, the anniversary of my dad's death is coming up. I don't have to love that, but I can acknowledge it and integrate it and use it as an emotional touchstone and touch it tenderly and say, wow, I'm still sad about that. Okay. All right. I'm still sad about that. Let's, you know, breathe in. Breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, bring it into your heart space, you know, and once you say it, then you own it. And you mitigate the effect of that emotion a little bit by letting it assimilate.
Yeah. Well, I think that's very powerful. So what else do you do when you work with your clients?
One of the other things I do, especially in relating meditation to Feng Shui and people's environments, is to say, what are you still pursuing and not getting out of life? And where can we work with that in your environment? You know, is your home full of clutter? That's an obstacle. You know, I think we spend a lot of our lives deflecting all of the things that we don't want to feel. And that's just an example in the meditation part. But we do it in our spaces too, is that we deflect what we don't want to feel. I'll give you an example. In my former marriage, my former husband was I would say a mid-level hoarder, a medium hoarder. So we had stuff everywhere, clutter, mess, dirt. there were 2 coins that were on the floor in our second bedroom, and those coins stayed there until we got divorced. So close to 13 years, those coins stayed on the floor. They stayed on the floor because if I had picked them up, I would have had to have cleaned the floor, and the emotional weight of my marriage was so heavy that I avoided picking up the coins for 13 years. That's a lot of massive, crushing emotion. And I tell that story and I share it with my now husband, because sometimes we'll have clutter or we'll have, piles of mail or something like that. And I'll say, we have to deal with that. We cannot deflect with piles. And, it's a loving, compassionate conversation usually, but is to say, hey, it looks like we've got some piles there. Is anything going on? We use a check-in system. And so if we have something to say to the partner that might be painful or that we have to discuss, I will say, we'll text him or email him and say, or leave him a note and say, could we check in after work today? So he knows I've got something to talk about. And he will do the same. He will say, can we check in? Yep, we can. And then you create this container, safe container, to say your truth. Can we check in? Okay, now I've got a space. I'm not trying to tell him on the run in an aggressive way. I'm feeling sad because you're working so many hours. But we can sit down in a safe place and have a conversation about it.
I really like that. Yeah.
So far it's working.
Yeah, it's very good. I mean, creating a space for that, right? Because I feel like, often if there's something kind of bothering us and we are trying to mention it, as you say, like on the run or like kind of out of context or, and then the other person is like, what are you saying? And like they're taking it personally instead of, actually receiving it with kind of like compassion and like being in a state where you can do something about it.
And to have a safe space to talk about it too, you get to disengage from the emotion of it. And like you said, taking it personally, you can disengage from that and kind of be an active listener and an active speaker and a truth speaker and say, I'm feeling frustrated because you've been working so many hours, and what I need is for you to spend time with me because then I feel safe. We spend our whole lives never expressing what our true needs are. And I think most conflict comes out of unmet need. Is that if I'm feeling like I need to spend more time with him and I know he's got a great deal of hours of work to do, I have to mitigate my response and say to him, I realize you're working a lot of hours, but I also need your attention. So can we carve out some time to spend together?
Does it also work that actually when you say something, so you want to check in, that he's just receiving, or would it happen that then he would bring something up as well? Or is it just on you then?
It usually leads to bringing something up as well, because I think a lot of time, whatever you're experiencing with a partner, you're both experiencing, and you have to give each other space in the container to be able to say it. And he might say, I've had a lot of work this week and really looking forward to Saturday. Let's make sure that we cross it off on the calendar and block it off so we've got the time. So there you've expressed the need. You said what you want the result to be, but you've done the action. You've done the action instead of just saying, you never spend time with me. How come you never spend time with me? Well, now that's an argument and that's a fight.
Yeah.
The request is, I need time with you so I don't feel sad and I feel safe.
Yeah. But then you said that, we often don't express our needs. But then do you think that most people even know or are aware of their needs?
I don't think so, because I think to, again, sit with yourself and say, wow, I really feel lonely. That's a hard thing. And it brings up emotion. And people don't want to feel sad. They don't want to feel grief. They only want to feel happy. So to say, I'm feeling lonely today, or maybe you woke up sad. Maybe you woke up sad for some unknown reason you don't even know. but to check in with yourself and be present and say, I'm feeling some loneliness. And I think that if you and I spend some time together, it might be less. So it really requires some inward introspection.
Yeah. So I guess, but what you are actually saying, and I think what I also want to inspire with the podcast, sharing kind of, honesty and vulnerability and like true stories of real people, is that you have to allow yourself and accept, I think also like negative emotions or whatever is like coming up, to then actually be happy in a different way, kind of being content like long term. Because if you're trying to suppress these emotions and trying maybe to pretend to be happy, then that actually makes you just more miserable.
Well, and I think you're onto something there, and I think that happiness is so temporary, and contentment, as you said, the Sanskrit word for contentment is santosha. And to really strive for contentment, and again, in the yin yang symbol, it's that curve in between the two polarities. As you walk that line of contentment, there's light and then there's dark, and you're feeling happy and maybe you're feeling sad, but in between there's this beautiful space of being in the breath, really, and being content.
Yeah, nice. Well, maybe you said it now already, but that would actually lead me to the 3 questions I ask every guest on the podcast. What does happiness mean to you?
I think happiness means you're being true to yourself and you're drawing boundaries so other people know how to treat you.
Beautiful. And what do you do to be happy?
I think that I continue to explore new things in creativity and continue to meet new people and communicate and learn everything I can about what I am in this container.
Very good. And what was the happiest moment in your life?
The happiest moment in my life was when I was meditating on my bedroom floor after my divorce, or going through my divorce, and opening my eyes and looking around at everything that had changed. Things were cleaned up. I was cleaned up. It was a beautiful sense of bliss. And I knew at that moment that something had shifted, and that I was never going to live the same way again.
Wow. Yeah, that's very powerful. And is there any book you read which was really inspiring you would like to recommend?
Sure. The first book would be The Yamas and Niyamas by Deborah Adele. It's the all of the ethical yoga practices, the restraints, things we go forward with. Those are what I really try to live my life by. And then also Pema Chödrön, the Buddhist nun, When Things Fall Apart. I read it during my divorce. It was given to me by my mentor, and it changed me. It's about making it all break apart before you put it together again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's like a Japanese concept as well, right? If you kind of, break everything and then you glue it back together, it just gets stronger and actually
it's a new beginning.
More beautiful. Yeah. We'll definitely put these in the show notes, and also your details. People can find you.
That would be great.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing your story and talking to me, taking the time, and spreading the light. And please continue doing what you're doing, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the forum and for you being a beautiful light worker, and thanks for bringing the story to everybody.
I hope you enjoyed the episode and you got some inspiration for yourself. And if you want to get in touch with Cynthia, I will put her website and all the links in the show notes for you. If you like the podcast, please leave me a review, leave me a like, subscribe to my channel. Whatever you need to do to support the podcast. I am truly grateful for each and every one of you listening and for you sharing the podcast with your friends, please, whenever you listen to an episode and you think it can help somebody else, please share it, because happiness is the only thing which doubles when you share it. Thank you so much. I wish you a lovely day wherever in the world you are. Love and namaste.